Thank you, Dr. Ambrish.
Sir, thank you very much. We are able to listen you, just your voice is a little bit low. We are taking that one. Yes. उधर से उसकी आवाज को बढ़ाना. It's okay. Just change the sound actually. Sir, director sir. सर आपको आवाज आ रही है क्या?
Yes, yes.
Now it's okay. It's sufficient, I think. Thank you, sir. We are just waiting for Professor Jaiswal to join.
Okay, 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 okay.
Thank you. It's okay. ना leave it. उतना sufficient अगर सब लोग silent रहेंगे तो नहीं देगा. ना technology. Yes, देखते रहना. Joining कैसे होना? वहीं से करो फोन में. What we are thinking this crowd ना जो सोच के स्टार्ट किया था विनीत सर ने जो मोटिवेशन दिया था मुझे लग रहा है कि नाउ वी आर इन द एग्जैक्ट मोड ऑफ द वर्कशॉप. यस देखते रहना स्क्रीन पे. सर वी आर ऑल सेट टू स्टार्ट. सर लिंक पे क्लिक कर देंगे आप. इस पर आप इसे लेना हाँ सर 5 साल के पास ज्वाइन कर. Yes, there is a request from sir. Okay.
Can you hear me, Amrish? Dr. Amrish? Just a minute.
My phone band.
Dr. Amrish, can you hear me?
Good morning, Jaiswal sir.
Okay, good morning, good morning. Can you hear me?
Your audio is clear. So we are all set. We are now going to start our inaugural session of this 1 week workshop. I am handing over to the session to Mr. Anand to inaugurate. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone present here. A warm welcome to all of you present here for this 1 week workshop in the Entrepreneurship Cell, Entrepreneurship and Development Cell, Rajkiya Engineering College Azamgarh. First of all, I would like to welcome Professor Anand Jaiswal from IIM Ahmedabad, a very renowned institute in our country. Respected Director Professor Tripathi, Director of IIM Ahmedabad. Respected Dr. Ambrish Singh, Workshop Convener, and Dr. Shukla, Workshop Co-Convener. All the HODs of all departments, Dr. Vineet Kumar Srivastav, HOD of Applied Science and Humanities Department at IIM Azamgarh, Dr. Tausif Ahmed, HOD of IT Department at IIM Azamgarh, Dr. Mechanical Engineering Department at IIM Ahmedabad, Dr. Anup Narayan Singh, HOD of Civil Engineering Department at IIM Ahmedabad, all the participants and the volunteers present here. Starting things with the blessings of Ma Saraswati. Tamsoma Asto Gamaya, Tamsoma Asto Sadgamaya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti. Now I would like to request all the faculty members and the participants to please lighten the lamp and start the things with the blessings of Ma Saraswati.
Thank you, Anand. Please proceed with the lighting of the lamp. Anand, sir. फैकल्टी में से आप आ जाओ बस.
Thank you very much. May the blessings of Ma Saraswati be upon us for the whole workshop. Moving forward, we have welcome addressal by Dr. Vineet Srivastava, HOD of Applied Sciences and Humanities Department at IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Vineet Srivastava has more than 10 years of teaching experience of BTech students in various institutions of Uttar Pradesh and at national level. Currently, Dr. Vineet Srivastava is Head of Department in Applied Sciences and Humanities Department at Rajkiya Engineering College Azamgarh. Dr. Vineet Srivastava has gained his PhD from IIT BHU and his area of interest includes applied fractional calculus and mathematics in machine learning. So, handing over the mic to Dr. Vineet Srivastava for his address.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be a part of this one-week international workshop on entrepreneurship development, organized by Entrepreneurship Development Cell of the Institute. On behalf of IIM Ahmedabad family, I welcome our chief guest, Professor Anand Jaiswal of IIM Ahmedabad. Welcome, sir. Professor Jaiswal is a leading academician and researcher of the field of marketing Cell for this 1 week international workshop. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaiswal, for your kind words. Now, moving the program, we have another addresser by Dr. Amrish Singh, the workshop convener of this 6-day long workshop at REC Azamgarh. Dr. Amrish Singh is currently the registrar of REC Azamgarh, and he is the main man behind this workshop going in this institution. Dr. Amrish Singh is the only management faculty at this institute, IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Amrish Singh has completed his MBA from Jaiswal Institute of Management, Ghaziabad, and Dr. Amrish Singh has received his PhD in Business Administration from University of Lucknow. Dr. Amrish Singh has experience of teaching students for more than 5 years, and his area of interest is business administration and social entrepreneurship. Handing over the mic to Dr. Amrish Singh, sir, please.
Thank you very much, Amit. It's the team which is working behind me, so that's why the today's event can be possible. I'm very thankful to you for handing over mic to me. First of all, I would like to welcome the person who is going to inaugurate this workshop by his writing words, Professor Anand Jaiswal from IIM Ahmedabad. Sir is not only a professor but is mentor to me also. He nourished me, cared me like anything when I was in IIM 2018. He not only professionally cared me but also have the personal touch to me. I'm very thankful to him that he has accepted the invitation on a very short notice. Although he is willing to come physically to this Varanasi and Azamgarh region, we talked so many times on this, but due to the classes and the ongoing semester in IIM Ahmedabad, he could not manage this time. But we are very sure he will join us physically in the near future. Thank you very much, sir, for joining this inaugural address. I also would like to thank the person behind my motivation and for the things which is happening to this institute in the last 2 years, Professor Tripathi, our director. Sir, I'd like to introduce a little bit about him to you, Professor Jaiswal. He's PhD from IIT Kanpur, MTech from IIT Delhi, and his BTech from SBTI Kanpur. And in a very young age, at the age of 43, in between 44, he became the director of the government institute in Uttar Pradesh. And he completed 2 directorships in the different government institutes, and now it is third tenure in REC Azamgarh for 5 years. He is a very visionary, and when he joined this institution in the incubation centers, EDCs, and all these things, the facility which you are seeing in the remote location in REC Azamgarh is just because of the possible of the person by his motivation and leadership. I am very thankful to Professor Tripathi also for motivating us to organize such a one program with us. Now I'd like to thanks to all the head of the departments which are present with me in this inaugural session, Dr. Vineet Srivastava, Dr. Tausi, Mr. Vibhuti, Dr. Anup Narayan, and the faculty members, Vijay, Anurag, and the most important, the person who, along with me, organizing this workshop, Dr. Kaushal Shukla, is the co-convener of this workshop. I'm thankful to these faculty members. And importantly, sir, I just want to tell you that we received the overwhelming response of more than 100 people for this workshop. But we have chosen only 40 participants just to see their skills, their qualities, and how they can perform in future, how it can be utilized, the learnings in this workshop, that how affect their entrepreneurial abilities or entrepreneurial thinking and their mindset. So that was the important. So I also congratulate the participants who make it possible to this gentry, and they are going to have with us in the next 1 week. I'm very thanks to all the participants that who are ready to just devote their 1 week dedication for this workshop. Now I'd like to brief you about this workshop. This is 1 week international workshop in which each day we will have 2 sessions of Indian speakers and 1 session of international speakers. Today is the online session, but from tomorrow there were the professors from BHU. Professor Rakesh Singh will join in the morning. Then afternoon, Professor Abhigan from Head Management School in Nehu, Shillong, the Central University, he will be in the offline mode. In the very next day, Professor on 22nd Feb, Professor Paunesh Kumar will join from Central University the founder and CEO of Smart Classes Rwanda. He is also a leading entrepreneur in Rwanda. He will deliver on what the entrepreneurial opportunity for the emerging economies. On 23rd, Mr. Anup Singh from is an analytics manager in the leading New Zealand multinational Singlet Milk Limited. He will talk about the role of analytics in business development. And on 24th, Mr. Arthur Coral from Peru. He will, the CEO of the Hero Startups in Peru, he will be deliberating on 24th February. So that's I am going to tell you my participant is going to be very fruitful workshop when the inaugural himself done by Professor Jaiswal. And you see the speakers profile and what actually we are going to gain in this 1 week workshop. I am very hopeful for the success of this international workshop. And it's just because of your commitment and your perseverance throughout the week. This is all about the workshop, and I'm again thankful for all the speakers who accepted our invitation, all the participants and director sir, all the heads and other people who are associated with us. I cannot forget the effort by the organizing team members, Meher, Saket and other students who did a lot for this. Thank you very much to all of you. Now I request Amit to please proceed further.
Thank you very much, sir, for your words and the briefing of this workshop. May have heard the students and the speakers. Moving forward, we have an address by our director, Professor B.K. Tripathi, sir. Professor B.K. Tripathi is currently serving as director of Rajkiya Engineering College Azamgarh, and Professor B.K. Tripathi has earned his Bachelor of Technology from IIT Kanpur, Master of Technology from IIT Delhi, and PhD from IIT Kanpur. Professor Tripathi's area of interest includes computer vision, machine learning, and high neural computing, and various other fields including the artificial intelligence and machine learning. Professor Tripathi has served as reviewer of many international journals, including the Professor Tripathi has received numerous awards for his research papers and received award as Best Paper Award in national and international conferences and for his publication by IIT Ahmedabad. Now, I request Professor B.K. Tripathi to kindly take over this mic and please follow along with your presentation. Please.
Yeah, and Dr. Amrish, am I audible here?
Yes, your audio is clear, sir. Thank you.
So thanks to all. Dr. Vinit Srivastava, department. There is a kind of echo.
Here is all right. We are actually receiving you very
Okay, now it is clear?
Yes, very clear.
So Dr. Amrish, am I audible there?
Very much audible, sir.
Okay. So Dr. Vinit Srivastava, head of the department. Dr. Amrish Singh, the organizer of this event today, a fantastic manager of all kind of activities. Dr. K.K. Shukla, other faculty members, and today's keynote speaker, Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal. My dear students, it is a pleasure moment for me to be part of the inaugural session of this 1 week international workshop on entrepreneurship development organized by Entrepreneurship Development Cell of IIM Ahmedabad. I welcome Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal and thank him for accepting our invitation to inaugurate this 1 week international workshop in very short moment. Professor Jaiswal is a well-known figure and also a leading academician and researcher in the field of innovation and bottom of pyramid research. And I believe that this expertise will be very beneficial for the participants of this workshop. We at REC Azamgarh believe that India's future depends upon entrepreneurs and their ideas. We help students nurture their thoughts, process and innovate ideas. The emergence of enterprises and entrepreneurs is the need of today, especially when the globalized world boasts of disappearing boundaries of world market to convert business ideas into reality and to promote entrepreneurship among various target groups. There is a need to train the future entrepreneurs on the various issues related to innovation, incubation, and entrepreneurship. Keeping this fact in mind, REC Azamgarh has established a full-fledged incubation center also, which is doing a very good job and working quite well. The participants and faculty members should take this learning opportunity and interact with quality speakers, which help them to understand the different aspects of entrepreneurship development. I congratulate the organizing committee, especially the hard work done by Dr. Amrish Singh, who is wonderful task manager for this 1 week fruitful and relevant workshop on entrepreneurship developments. And thanks all coming speakers for joining us in this workshop. At last, I would like to complete my words with a quote. We generally say our actors as the heroes, but now world is changing. Now we should start calling actors as entertainer and our entrepreneur as heroes for our next generation to know the actual meaning of the heroes. So definitely in the coming time, the entrepreneurs will be called as heroes. I wish all the success of this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you very much, sir. Your words would have inspired the aspiring entrepreneurs here as heroes. Moving forward, now I would like to welcome Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal. Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal is from one of the finest institutions of our country, Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, where he is currently looking after the marketing area as a professor. Professor Anand's research interests include bottom of pyramid markets, services management, customer satisfaction, business to customer e-commerce, healthcare management, and innovation in healthcare and brand extension management. Professor Anand's papers are published in renowned journals such as Long Range Planning, Journal of Business Ethics, Journal of Marketing Sciences, and many more still counting. Professor Anand's work in the bottom of pyramid has attracted attention of academicians and practitioners in India as well as in various foreign countries. His first paper, providing a different perspective on the bottom of pyramid market, has been published in 2008 in the Innovation, a prestigious journal from MIT Press. For his various research papers, he has won several awards. He was given the Distinguished Young Professor Award for his excellence in research in 2011 at Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And I am very sure that all these experiences and prestigious works of Professor Anand would be helpful to all the students who are aspiring to be a young entrepreneur and to those who have already established their entrepreneurship mind or to those who have already established their business. Now, over to Professor Anand for the move forward of this workshop. Professor Anand, please.
Doctor, can you hear me? Doctor?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, okay. Just a minute.
Yes.
So is my screen visible, Dr. Amrish? Dr. Amrish, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
It's
Please.
visible. Okay, I will change my slides, and in case slides are not shifting, then let me know. So good morning to all of you, all the participants of this international workshop on entrepreneurship development. Uh, Good morning to Dr. Tripathi and the Dr. Amrish and all the esteemed speaker of this particular conference. I'm happy to be part of it, and I would like to thank Dr. Amrish and the principal of REC, Rajkiya Engineering College Azamgarh, Dr. Tiwari, for inviting me to be part of the workshop and deliver this particular talk. Now, over next half an hour or so, I would talk about social entrepreneurship or I would start with entrepreneurship in general. The common or general form of entrepreneurship we see is often is known as commercial entrepreneurship. In academic parlance or academic circles, we say it's a commercial entrepreneurship, and we distinguish it from another form of entrepreneurship, which is known as social entrepreneurship. So I'm going to talk about what is entrepreneurship in general, and I assume this may be helpful for the participant. And I was told that some of the participants are scholars and some are budding entrepreneurs. So I'm assuming that it can provide insight to both the scholars as well as the entrepreneurs. So I would talk about entrepreneurship in general, and then I would introduce you to all the concept of social entrepreneurship, and then I would try to differentiate these two. So let me start with the importance of entrepreneurship. Why entrepreneurship is important for economies, for countries, for nations, and what roles entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship actually plays. So we often say, and that's the very established doctrine. So it is said that entrepreneurs are actually responsible for shifting economic resources from lower productivity to higher productivity. So we have inefficiencies often in economies or in systems around us. And this is the responsibility of entrepreneurs to shift the resources from lower efficiencies to higher efficiency. And invariably that results in eventually greater yield for the system as a whole. Now, why this is important, why economic efficiency is important? Because economic efficiencies are achieved through the innovation, and unless until we have changes, unless until we have innovations, economies would stagnate. We would not see any improvement. We would not see any improvement in the system, not in the people's life or the quality of life or the products or services they consume. So everything would stagnate and eventually decay or destroy. Gradual decay and gradual decrement we can often see. So therefore, entrepreneurs are extremely important from the economic development point of view, from a growth point of view. Now, what exactly? So often we say when there is an entrepreneurial activity, a large scale entrepreneurial activity, it leads to creative destruction. Creative destruction means it will destroy the inefficient uses of economic resources. So there is, as I said, that there is an efficient utilization of resources, there is an efficiency, there is a poor productivity. All that system tends to be destroyed by entrepreneurial action, and eventually a new system is created. So it's a creative destruction. So you disrupt the old system, and then in that process you create a new system with greater efficiency, greater quality of life people, or greater productivity or higher satisfaction for people in general, people like you and me. So how exactly entrepreneurs work? So if you typically see the process, in general, entrepreneurship starts with identifying opportunities. So if I'm entrepreneur, I would be invariably keeping an eye on what is happening in the world around me, and I'm searching for opportunities. So identifying opportunity is the first step, and once I have identified opportunity, then I need to exploit that opportunity. I need to seize that opportunity, and for that I need to assemble resources. So it's not that I may have all the resources. For example, if there is I have identified an opportunity in terms of launching a new product or a new service, I need resources for that. I need financial resources. I need team, for example, who can help me in setting up enterprise. I need people who can help me in running, the factories or the manufacturing operation. I need people even eventually for sales and marketing purpose. So I need to assemble resources, financial resources, HR resources, material resources, and eventually I will set up an enterprise, and I will, pursue that goal of offering the desired products and services to my consumers, and there will be some outcome. In most cases, a positive outcome, and in some cases, of course, not so positive or unfavorable outcome. Sometimes for the entrepreneurs. So that's the entrepreneurial process. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurs, can we develop some kind of framework or a model to understand all the actors and the process involved there? I briefly talked about this process of identifying opportunity, then seizing it, and then assembling resources, then taking actions, and then eventually having an outcome. But we can also see the same from the point of view of three dimensions. So the first dimension is the context. The second is characteristics of people who are involved, or the entrepreneur. There may be one entrepreneur, and sometimes you have multiple entrepreneurs being part of team, and then eventually an outcome. So entrepreneurial context, the characteristics of entrepreneur, and the outcome. These three dimensions we look at. So what is the entrepreneurial context or the starting point of entrepreneurship? So often, as I said, their expectation is to convert resources or transform resources from lower efficiency to higher efficiency. So the starting point is, we say, a suboptimal equilibrium. Suboptimal equilibrium means unpleasant situation. So let me simplify for managers or for students. So there is an unpleasant or dissatisfactory situation which is leading to, say, lower level of satisfaction for example, consumers or the participant. So unsatisfactory situation or unpleasant situation or suboptimal equilibrium is a starting point for entrepreneurship. So let me give you some example, and I'm giving you some example from Indian context. So you would have heard about, right now you have these two big players in the cab business, Ola and Uber. So think about, from the Uber is of course global player, and the Ola is Indian company. But around when Ola was established, just around that time, the two graduates of IIM Ahmedabad, Raghunandan and Apremya Ravi, they started off this company, Taxi for Sure. I'm sure probably you would have heard about this company. Eventually, this company was acquired by Ola. However, yeah, they were there in the business for several years, and then at a real extraordinary gain, they sold off this company to Ola. So what was the starting point for Ola or for Taxi for Sure? And in this case, you have two entrepreneurs who are, Raghunandan and the Apremya Ravi. What they did actually. So, so if you have watched their talks, or if you heard from themselves, probably you may be knowing. But let me share what led to the beginning of the enterprise. So you have unpleasant or dissatisfactory situation or suboptimal equilibrium. So what is suboptimal equilibrium? Suboptimal equilibrium in this case is, extremely dissatisfactory experience for customer to book a cab or to hire a cab or even use a taxi service. So if you remember 8 years ago, or maybe before that, 10 years ago, what was the situation or what the experience you had when you were trying to get a cab or a taxi while coming out of a Mumbai airport or Chennai railway station or Delhi railway station? This used to be extraordinarily bad experience for most of us. I remember, so when you come out, you would find that there are some hundreds of taxi guys waiting outside, and they're just trying to sometimes, push you. They trying to even take your bag, that come with me. Sometimes you have foreigners, and you will see that they're really badly treated. And that was a real, threatening experience for the consumers, because because of several reasons. So for example, they were unsure about the safety of these drivers or the taxi guy. They were unsure about the money they would charge, and they were unsure about the quality of ride, for example. So they were, this entire experience used to be really bad because of these three concerns. And again, I'm repeating that how much they will charge, whether this guy is safe. We heard several stories about real security risk, personal life risk, situations or the incidents committed by the taxi guys, for example. And then, of course, the comfort of the ride. So this is interesting situation that most people were not keen, or they really felt very sad while hiring a cab. At the same time, you have real big supply, because there are several of these hundreds of these taxi guys waiting outside to have passengers, because passengers are ultimate source of revenue. So it's a real suboptimal situation. Consumers are getting very bad experience, and the taxi guys also, they were at the receiving end, because many cases, if possible, you would avoid hiring taxis. You would, for example, tell hotel to send you the cab. Sometimes you tell people, no, your family member to come and pick you up. Sometimes you hire autos, or sometimes you prefer to say, for example, share taxis, or a cab with somebody else. So this was eventually resulting in poor outcome, even for less business, or poor outcome for the taxi owners also. Now, in this situation, what Aprima Ravi and Radha Raghunandan did actually, so they said that there's a problem which needs a solution, and therefore there's an opportunity. So this suboptimal equilibrium is in terms of dissatisfactory equilibrium, dissatisfactory situation for consumer, and also poor revenue for the taxi owners, because ultimately they are suffering, they are not getting enough business. So this is said to be one example, and we all know that eventually they started off this taxi for sure, and then parallelly Ola started off, so which transformed the entire experience of hiring cab, for example. So now you have a platform, platform business model, where you have say, for example, mobile app, or you have website interface, where you have all the you have listed, or you have all the providers, in this case the taxi owners, for example, or the cab drivers, and on the other side you have consumers, and then you're making sure that the customer has very pleasant experience of finding a cab, and you're ensuring that there is no cheating of any kind, means the price which would be charged to customer would be the right one, and the safety, for example, and of course the comfort, means the way taxi is kept, the the arrangement insides, and then whether it's clean or not, all those issues are largely taken care of. So this is a solution they developed, and then through this solution they tried eventually to give or generate a new outcome, or a desirable outcome, you can say. So you're transforming a suboptimal equilibrium to a desired, a pleasant equilibrium. So this is one example of the suboptimal equilibrium as a starting point of entrepreneurship. I can very quickly give you few other examples. The same thing happened in case of the Oyo Room. So Oyo Room, the very similar experience. You have very large supply of, say, hotels on one side, and of course consumer, those who travel and those who are visiting different other stations, they need a safe and comfortable stay. So you have stay, for example, provided by 3-star, 5-star hotels, which used to be safe, but then not everybody can afford. And on the other side, you have, say, budget hotels or lodges. They were not seen to be reliable and safe. So many people, they were reluctant to, stay in lodges or budget hotels because of safety concerns, because of uncleanliness, because of bad experience, and because of lack of quality, for example. So there was again this problem that consumers wanted, budget accommodation, quality accommodation, at the same time safety, and on the other side, the small hoteliers were suffering because they were not getting enough volume, because consumers were reluctant to use their services, even though they were offering lower prices, for example. So again, in the same context, the Oyo Room, I'm forgetting his name, Ritesh Agrawal, if I'm remembering correctly his name. He saw an opportunity, so he said that this is a suboptimal equilibrium which needs change, and therefore he again started this Oyo Room idea. And the Oyo Room again is using platform as a concept, and they said that we'll list all the service provider, in this case the hoteliers, budget hotels, lodges, small like 1 star 2 star hotels, not so big branded hotels, and we'll make sure that they are giving a good experience to customer in terms of quality and standardization, cleanliness, safety. More important is safety, the transparency in the pricing, everything. We'll make sure that certain quality standards are met, and they also help the hotels, for example, in improving the quality standards and the for example, in some cases infrastructure improvement, room upgradation, the basic, for example, facilities for consumers. So they forced the hoteliers to change, for example, to be part of the OYO platform, for example. So again, in this case, you are dealing with a problem of, as I said, that safe, comfortable stay for budget conscious consumers, or not so, the people who can't afford 3 star, 5 star, or real expensive hotels. And in that process, you are bringing large scale efficiency, because now, earlier hotels had 30-40% occupancy rate. Now Oyo said that if you are part of our platform, we'll make sure that your occupancy will increase to 80 to 90. So in that process, you're, the pie, or we said, you are creating new value, unlocking new value. And of course, that part of value, is being appropriated by OYO, for example, as a charge to be on the platform, for example, from the point of view of hoteliers. So this is another example of a suboptimal equilibrium, and then entrepreneurship identifying that and then taking action. So you're creating a platform and a very creative approach. So look at, in both cases, often entrepreneurship requires not incremental minor adjustment. So minor adjustment could be that, let me launch a new cab service, which may be a little more, affordable, but then the problem will not change dramatic, problem would not improve, for example, or will not be addressed very significantly. So often entrepreneurial approach requires real creativity or innovation in the approach. Now, if you look at, in both cases, OYO as well as Ola and the taxi for sure, in both cases, you have very creative, very new solution, a lateral approach, as we often talk about. So here, in both cases, Ola as well as OYO, they are not investing in, say, for example, in the goods and services. So they are not buying taxis, fleet of taxis, for example, or they are not building hotels, because maybe that is an option which requires very, very heavy investment. And as an entrepreneur, you may not have that, for example, you may not have capability to do that, or maybe that is not needed because you have already such a big supply of hotels, you have already such a big supply of taxis. So it's a question of, the matching demand and supply in a manner which is, satisfactory to the receiver of the service, as well as, is this economically fruitful for the provider also. So this is a creative solution. It's not like a minor, small improvement you're making. And then in this cases, you are taking direct action. Remember that Aprema Ravi, he and his partner started of this company. Ritesh Agarwal started this OYO, as a company, for example. So they didn't wait for somebody else to, for example, take the action and exploit the opportunity. They said that we are coming forward and we'll address this problem. We'll provide the solution, for example. And when you look at this now, the second element is the characteristics. So you have identified entrepreneurial context is in terms of suboptimal characteristics, and then taking actions, direct action, not waiting for others to, for example, to do something. So this is the first part. The second part is the characteristics. So when we talk about entrepreneurs, they are said to be different on certain accounts. And most important is their tendency or their ability to bear the risk. Because, when you take action of this type, entrepreneurial action, invariably it requires, or there is a significant risk involved. So you need to bear that risk, so you need fortitude, for example, you need courage, so you need ability to bear the risk, for example. And, in that process, invariably you set aside all the worries you have, all the concerns you have about failures, about setbacks, because that's possible, that may happen in many cases. And sometimes, nobody can be assured about the success of venture, but you still take risk. So this is the characteristic. So the entrepreneurs seemingly, they have certain traits, and one important trait is the ability to bear risk, ability to take direct action. So this actually, so a lot of people sometimes have great ideas, but they are not willing to take action. They are not willing to assume risk, and that actually differentiate them from the entrepreneurs. So that's the second part, the characteristics. Now, what is the outcome? That's a third dimension of entrepreneurial action. So invariably, the outcome is new and stable equilibrium. And equilibrium, like, after Oyo, what happened? Or after Ola, what happened, for example? Eventually, you have new equilibrium, and this equilibrium is invariably leading to higher level of satisfaction. So now, yesterday I was in Bangalore and I used Ola, and I know that such a smooth experience of hiring cab, for example. So this is a system which is leading to very high degree of satisfaction now for all the participants, because invariably when you have consumers are certified, they would use this service, and when they would use this service, there would be more and more volume for the taxi owners. So this is a win-win situation. Earlier they were waiting outside airport for hours, waiting for a patient, and once they get patient, they would exploit him or her to the maximum extent. Now you have real big volume because people trust service, and therefore it's a win-win situation. So this actually resulted in a new equilibrium. And another aspect of the new equilibrium is the imitation. So you create an ecosystem where this, whatever service or good you're providing, eventually others are noticing that, and you will find many others copying the idea and then starting similar services and products. So this leads to a development of an ecosystem of some kind. So you will find many others entering in this business, and then invariably, as a result of that, not just you as a service provider, because now you have not just Ola, you will find there's so many other platforms, for example, helping you in booking cabs. Similarly, not just Oyo, you have several other, even you can use all the travel portals like Make My Trip and Yatra and many others platform for the hotel booking and the reviews. So reviews, of course, is key element, key innovation they provided. So how to make sure that there's a disincentive for a service provider like taxi guy or the hotel to cheat the system, for example, or to provide less than optimal services to consumers. So you have a review system where, for example, you review the taxi driver or you review the hotel, and that acts as an information for a new customer. So there is an incentive, for example, for hotel or the taxi provider to give you good service. So this is the outcome, creation of new equilibrium, as well as large scale adoption and imitation, and therefore now you have multiple service providers, and as a result of that, whole market getting changed, or eventually you have a situation where resources are far more efficiently used. Now, this is about the commercial entrepreneurship. Eventually, as I said, that in some cases, and nowadays, new age entrepreneurs, they don't necessarily. Earlier, the difference was that when you start a ventures, that will be a venture for life, for your entire life, or maybe sometimes for generations, your next generation, next to next generation. Now, the new age entrepreneurs are also operating very differently. So they build enterprise, and when they build enterprise, they build this enterprise with this idea of eventually at one point of time exiting the business, and in that process making extraordinary monetary gain. And this is exactly what happened. So if you look at what Raghunandan and the Premier Ravi did, they sold off Taxi 4 to the Ola, and in that process, within few years, they made several hundred crores. Remember that if they would have even joined a consulting, the highest paying job at IMA, probably that much monetary gains they would not have made in the entire lifetime. And here, just 3 or 4 years or few years of entrepreneurship gave them extraordinarily gain, and that's the outcome of entrepreneurship, at least in some cases. So now let me talk about briefly the social entrepreneurship, because this is also entrepreneurship, and how this is different from the commercial entrepreneurship. So commercial entrepreneurship often, if it's successful, leads to gain, significant gain, and sometimes extraordinary gain, for the founders. However, we are seeing a new class of entrepreneurship, and which where the starting point is not, it's still a uh, unpleasant situation or suboptimal equilibrium. But this equilibrium actually is resulting, is not necessarily in terms of economic inefficiencies, but this unpleasant equilibrium or situation is resulting in the exclusion of a part of population. So, for example, because of current market conditions or the way market is operating, larger number of or good part of say population, for example, is devoid of or is not in a position to use certain products and services. Maybe those products and services are too costly for them, or maybe marketers are not reaching out to them. They are not, they are not making available these products to these consumers, and therefore this is leading to large scale exclusion. So we say exclusion means I'm, as a marketer, I'm not giving everybody the benefit of consuming products and services, my products and services. So there is a large scale exclusion, for example, and invariably it's leading to several other problems like social problems, their opportunity to grow, development, or come out of poverty, pursue opportunities for improving their economic condition. All those are actually the outcome. They don't have access to them. So this is, there is a undesirable or suboptimal social equilibrium, you can say, and that attracts the attention of social entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs are also now here, they are also identifying and attracted to suboptimal equilibrium, but a suboptimal equilibrium which is resulting in a social problem, or a, as I said, that exclusion of a certain group of consumers or people of certain part of population. So let me give you an example. So we all know the microfinance industry now, but how the microfinance industry started off. So we all know, even in India, say probably this was clearly visible 15 or 20 years ago. So if you look at, say, for example, we give this example, many of UP. So, a lot of poor individuals from UP, Bihar, and they often go to metropolitan cities like Mumbai and Delhi, and they typically have lower level of skill. So they end up becoming a taxi driver. So this is again, so they sometimes, they don't have money to buy taxi. So they rent taxis. Now, what used to be situation? So now, if I want to buy taxi, I need a loan, for example. I don't have money. Now, unfortunately, no bank will give them the loan. Because why? Because these people are urban migrant, so they don't have, say, for example, the collaterals to offer to bank for getting the debt, for example. So they may not have, sometimes even nowadays, of course we have, but you may not have all the required documents. You don't have, even you're living in Mumbai, you're living in slum areas, so you may not have land records, for example. You don't have land ownership, for example. You don't have asset. So as a result of all of that, you don't have permanent address, for example, in a city, or you have nobody who can actually provide a guarantee to the bank. So you are, therefore no bank will give you money to buy taxi. Now in this scenario, the informal market works. So they are money lenders, for example. So they will lend money to you. For example, what this guy may do, and there is studies actually saying that, for example, he will get money from the informal market, the informal money lenders. Now what these money lenders do in Mumbai, city like Mumbai, and even rural areas for other contexts, if you, say, for example, borrow 100 rupees in the morning, for example, to pay rent for a taxi and also to buy fuel for the taxi, after the very same day, by the evening or by night, you need to pay 110 rupees to the person who has given you 100 rupees. So look at the extraordinarily, problematic situation here. This guy has borrowed 100 rupees in the morning, and in the same day he's paying 110 rupees. Now you can say 10 rupees is too small, but if you calculate the interest rate, in this case is a 10% per day, which is exceptionally high. Because if I, as a well-off consumer, or say safe consumer, I may actually get a interest loan at an interest of 10% per annum. So if I'm, for example, interested in getting a personal loan, I'm sure I can get a loan at an interest of 10% per annum. Now this poor migrant from northern states in Mumbai, he's paying 10% per day. So look at the extraordinary lead disadvantaged situation he's in. So we often call this as a poverty penalty because he's poor, he has no resources, he's paying such a high cost for a particular service or a product, which of course the same thing the rich or well-off consumer can avail at a very significantly lower cost. Now, so how exactly this was changed and how this led to social entrepreneurship? So this is the story of Grameen Bank. So in Grameen Bank, you would have heard about Mohammed Yunus, the economist who was given the Nobel Prize eventually for his work on microfinance. So he actually spotted the exact same idea. He was a professor of economics in Bangladesh, and he noticed, he actually observed women making bamboo furnitures in Bangladesh, and these women were very hardworking, but they continue to be extremely poor despite making very beautiful furnitures, bamboo furnitures, working day out, but they continue to be extremely poor. So what he noticed that what was happening that these women, they were not given loan by any formal banking sector, again because of same reason, they're poor, they don't have collaterals, they have no land records. So what they were doing, they were borrowing money from the traders, intermediaries in the furniture industry, to buy all the raw material, and the trader was giving them the money, but with this condition that you need to sell all your produce at a predetermined price to only the trader. So with this condition that I'm giving you money, but you would sell off all your produce, whatever you're making, to me only, and that too at a significantly lower price than the market price. So this was resulting in a large scale exploitation because the intermediary was making all the money, and the women there were continued to be extremely poor. Now, Muhammad Yunus did this experiment. So there was this woman, and her name was Sagufta Begum. And what he did, he said that, let me try out this. So he actually gave her $35, if I remember correctly, few hundred rupees, you can say. And he said to this lady that you can take this money, buy the raw material directly from the market, and then you have flexibility to sell your furniture to anybody. And once you have enough money, then you can return it back to me after a few months. Now, to his surprise, this woman, after 6 months or so, returned back the entire money. Because what happened now, she was buying the raw material from the market and then selling the produce again at a market price. And then in that process, she made significant gain, or she could make significant money. And then eventually she repaid the entire amount to the Muhammad Yunus. Now, Muhammad Yunus again now increased the scope of his experiment. So he now gave money to 35 different women, all women manufacturing the bamboo furnitures. And again, to his surprise, after 6 months, all the women actually did return back the money. So this idea or this belief was shattered that poor consumers are risky consumers from a banking point of view. He shattered this belief. He said that poor consumers can actually be very safe customers with a right business model. So he came up with this idea of microfinance, small finance, a small amount of money which can be given to them, these entrepreneurs. And the idea in this case, the two innovations. So you need to think about creative solution. So the creative solution was that first the money will be given only to women, because he also realized that if you give money to men are extremely risky customers. They will end up creating their enterprise in local alcohol shop the very same day, and therefore burn up all the money. So he said that I will give money or I will lend only to women because women are extremely safe. And the second, I will have the joint ownership of loan. So this joint ownership of the loan means you need to create a group, self-help group, for example, where all the participating women in a group would be jointly responsible for repayment. Means if one person defaults, then all the women would be ineligible for taking any further loan, and as well as they would be required to repay the loan. So there is a informal pressure on the woman or any participant to repay. So there is no contract, for example, because in a formal sector, for banking sector, you enforce contract, you take legal action. But in this case, because you have very high social capital, So invariably you have a pressure to, for example, repay the loan. So this is a new solution he offered, and that eventually resulted in the creation of this Grameen Bank. And then Grameen Bank eventually ended up becoming one of the largest microfinance organization all over the world. And his belief proved to be true, actually, because if you look at all over the world, across all kinds of banks, the banks which typically even offer products and services to the high-end consumer, if you compare even their default rate, it is said that the Grameen Bank has the lowest default rate in the world. So their recovery rate is close to 96 to 97%. So remember, this is unbelievable, that a bank which is giving loan only to extremely poor people, they actually have a recovery rate of 96, 97%. That's the highest all over the world. So this is, again, result direct action. And then more importantly, in this case, as I said, that what happened, as I was talking about, you have new equilibrium and then outcome, and then that will result in a creation of ecosystem. So now, microfinance has become such a big business. You have all over the world, all major countries, you will find a number of companies providing microfinance services, for example. So this is imitation and creation of a new equilibrium, a new ecosystem is being created. So this is an outcome of entrepreneurial action. So what is the driving point, for example? So as I said, that the commonality is same, that in both cases you have a suboptimal equilibrium, both actually requires direct action, both actually required entrepreneurs to take risk. And in both cases, for example, there's an outcome which is leading to a new and stable equilibrium, and which is actually eventually resulting in satisfaction of the participants and also large scale adoption and the creation of new ecosystem. But of course, there are some differences. The difference in this case is that uh, here you are not talking about, in social entrepreneurship, you are not talking about the individual gain or financial gain, but you're talking about social transformation or large scale social transformation. So Grameen, for example, led the same, or gave, helped a very large number of, say, women in Bangladesh to come out of poverty. In India, another example we cite is about this Sulabh movement. Sulabh movement is also, on social entrepreneurship kind of model they adopted, and we all know Sulabh resulted in quality of, like good sanitation services in metropolitan area cities, especially near airports or near railway stations, bus stand, and that also resulted in economic gain for disadvantaged population. So that's another model. So, and we know, as I said, that ecosystem creation and the large scale adoption in both cases. So the key difference here is that you're not necessarily, doing entire thing for personal gain, but social transformation. But while resulting in social transformation or social problems being alleviated, in many cases, the social entrepreneurship also makes some individual gains in that process. So that is also because often you have a market based solution, for example, in that process there is some revenue, at least for the entrepreneur or for the people involved in the entire entrepreneurial activity. Okay, so with this, I will stop here. But let me, before I close, I would like to differentiate social entrepreneurship from social services and social activism. So a lot of time people say that I'm offering social services or I'm social activities, but social entrepreneurship is different from these two uh, form of these two form of activities. So in social services, we are not talking about scale, large scale adoption, very significant impact. So when you're doing something like, say for example, when you're providing free education to, say for example, slum childrens in your area, you're mobilizing
almost your more than 35 minutes lecture. Participants are really thinking about, so this is very, some people for in the hall, in conference room, for some participants, a very new kind of thing that some might be attending this program very first time, and this will be very good orientation that you can know. You can be an entrepreneur. There are several opportunities in the outside of your this conference room also, outside of this institution also. The opportunities is waiting for the entrepreneurs. We are very thankful to you who have beautifully explained about the common skill versus social entrepreneurs, what actually social entrepreneurs are. And most important thing is this: all the social activities, social activism is not the social entrepreneurship. And the importance of context and characteristics are beautifully explained with the examples. I think you've heard so many examples, but if you can theoretically see those examples, that how it can be explained. So if any students have any questions, sir is with us, we can take one or two questions. Any student? You have a question, please. Tell your name,
So,
then.
let me
again.
Dr. B.K. Tripathi, principal of, Rajkiya Engineering College. I'm very thankful to Dr. Tripathi for starting off or thinking about this workshop on the entrepreneurship development. And I'm sure this will probably be entrepreneurs there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Actually, we have established an incubation center also. This is as a separate entity, like a Section 8 company. We have registered recently, and we have 8 startups currently on board. This is the starting journey, but we are very much committed because the faculty members, coordinator, and other people are also taking interest. We are very dedicated willing for that. Although we are the government institute and we have some little bit funds scarcity, but the UP government will also have a new startup policy. And for that policy, after that policy, we opened that incubation center. As I also connected with a few people in CIE, in IMA, then we were in the starting stage, and I get a good guidance from there also, sir. So, sir, we can take one or two questions if you allow.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, one question we can take. Amit.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Amit from Information Technology. Sir, my question is, how could an aspiring socially influenced startup can become commercially capable enough to compete with market around the world?
Dr. Amrish, can you repeat the question?
Actually, I can repeat that question. What actually he is saying: can a socially motivated social venture, how can it can be develop market capabilities, and how can it face the competition of the market and be a viable business?
So the idea is, when you're talking about social entrepreneurship, they're different from NGOs. NGOs are actually, so entrepreneur works like a manager. He has a focus on economic efficiency, professional management, and he makes sure that the product or service he's providing is of real high quality. It is giving very high degree of satisfaction. And eventually, in that process, you have economic gains. Economic gains for the participants, as well as he as a founder. So therefore, that's why I'm saying that you even social entrepreneur, look at, say, for example, how again the same example as I was giving. You have Dr. Amrish may probably give you more, can more talk about. So you have very good example of, say, Arvind Eye Hospital, for example. You have several, like I already talked about Sulabh movement. We know Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. You have nowadays, large scale. You have, you talked about this Mensuropedia. There are several other examples, where entrepreneurs decided to, unleash a social transformation, for example. and they realize that the way government is working, or they realize that social problem, for example, cannot be left to NGOs and the governments because they are extremely inefficient actor. And if you bring in market forces, for example, eventually, or if you manage your enterprise, the social enterprise, like a professional organization, invariably it leads to large scale, it leads to rapid scaling up and large scale transformation you can actually result in as a result of that. Yeah, so that's my response to the question.
And participants, sir, we will take just 2 minutes more and we will wind up this session. Sir, we have, if you are able to see, we have the token of what we can say, it's like a gratitude. Are you able to see this, sir?
Yeah.
So, sir, when I'll be in Ahmedabad in May, probably I will surely bring this with me, and I request Dr. Vineet Srivastava, who is the head of the department, among my department, to present in your absence here to me. So that will be, this forum will be over. Sir, would I accept this from head of department?
Yeah, sure, Doctor.
Sure, Doctor. I will send this photograph virtually to you, and thank you very much for this. We were actually thinking for so many days for your talk, but due to the COVID, last 2.5 years, the physical activities, or you can say the additional activities, have suffered a lot in the institutions. But we will remain in touch, and I'm really from the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful to you, and also thankful my few FDP participants, Professor Sahu and Abhinandan and Ruma, they have joined this session. I'm also thankful to them that they joined. Also, now, sir, I just hand over to the anchor and we will wind up the session, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would request Professor Kaushal Kumar Shukla, workshop co-convener and assistant professor in applied science and humanities department at IIM Ahmedabad, to offer vote of thanks to our guest speaker, Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal, and to everyone present during the session. Now, handing over the mic to Professor Kaushal.
Hello. A very good afternoon to our honorable director, sir, Professor Tripathi, sir. Chief guest of this program, Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal, sir. Workshop convener, Professor Amrit Singh, all the respected professors and active participants. I am Dr. Kaushal Shukla, working as an assistant professor of physics in the Department of Applied Science and co-convener of this program. First of all, I would like to thank our respected director, sir, to give us opportunity to conduct such wonderful one-week international workshop based on entrepreneurship development. And I am also thankful to our incoming professor and program convener, Professor Amrit Singh, for organizing this wonderful workshop. Now, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Anand Kumar Jaiswal, sir, for sharing your suggestions and valuable knowledge in the field of social and commercial enterprises, in which included entrepreneurship context and characteristics, and how can you differentiate entrepreneurship and social and commercial entrepreneurship, and many more things related to entrepreneurship. So definitely, sir, I am sure his wise counsel and share valuable knowledge will give a proper motivation, a proper direction to our active participants.
Jaiswal and other dignitaries to kindly open a video for a photograph, and we will finally finalize this inaugural session. What are you doing? It's okay. It's okay. You can. Yes. Quality is not. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. So, in mind that, I mean, it's a very good start. And this sprint will be continuing for the next 6 days. We will bind up and we'll share a report and outcome to you, sir. Very sure. Thank you. Thank you. Your voice is not coming, sir, I think. Saying something, but yes. Sir, your voice is muted, I think. Sir, you were muted. You are saying something? Sir, your voice is not coming. I think you were saying, or we will bind up this. Yes. Sir, is muted? Sir, we will bind up the session. Actually, we are not getting your voice. Okay, thank you very much to Professor Jaiswal, sir, Director, sir, for his valuable time in this inaugural session. He's saying something. Sir, we couldn't get you at the last, actually. Your voice was not coming due to you were muted. We will be binding it this session, sir. Thank you. Okay, thanks all the staff and other participants. Thank you very much, all the head of departments, faculty members, staff members, organizing